Hey folks, welcome back to HUD's House of Baseball. I hope you guys are all staying safe at home and going by the rules because that's how we're going to get the grand game back in action. So today we get to talk about one of the greatest journeys in my 21-year career, the 1993 season in Japan. Woohoo! Was that an experience?
It was awesome. What a great opportunity. I had just finished my 3-year contract with the St. Louis Cardinals and wasn't sure what was next. I got a call from my agent, the great Arn Tellem, calls me on the phone and says, "Hud, the Japanese want you." And I said, "What? They want me? Wow. Okay, well that sounds like a lot of fun." And so we ended up signing for the Yakuto Swallows. How about it? I got my jersey on. All these years later, 27 years later, I still can fit it. It's a little tight, but Jennifer went with me. We didn't have any children there. It was in 93. So the Japanese bought me away from the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, all of a sudden, we're flying all the way to Japan, and we're like, wow, what are we going to experience? We have no idea. In 1992, Tom Selleck was making a movie called Mr. Baseball. And he stopped by the St. Louis Cardinals to take some batting practice with us and to hang out while he was getting in baseball shape for this movie. Now, we had no idea what the movie was going to be like or anything like that, so we were taking BP, and Tom Selleck's taking pictures with all the wives and stuff and hanging out, a little PR deal. Well, we get on the airplane to fly to Japan, and what movie's on? In 93, Mr. Baseball, Tom Selleck. So it fit just like a glove. Ends up being one of my favorite all-time baseball movies. My wife was there with me. It was a big thing that she was able to come, and we experienced our last year before we started having children. So we landed in Japan. Oh man, the photographers were everywhere. They were taking my picture like I was one of the Beatles. I mean, I was certainly a utility player in the big leagues, which was no grand entrance or anything, no superstardom, but the Japanese made me feel like I was a star. So here I am, 15 years in pro ball, and now they're treating me like the star that I wanted to be. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. 2 months of spring training. Okay, that was a long spring training. But thankfully, my American teammate, only was allowed one other American, his name was Jack Howell. Jack and I are blood brothers from that 9 months experience. So much fun we had with Jack. Jack has a good sense of humor, dry sense of humor, but character. And man, could he hit. He was the home run king over there back-to-back seasons. So I basically carried Jack's bags for him. And I wanted to make sure all the Japanese players knew that I loved Jack. I asked God, what do you want me to do? I mean, heck, I'm not going to turn their world on fire. They've had all kinds of American baseball players over there in the past. So he said, I just want you to smile and let them see what a real American ball player is like. You go there and be happy. You be the guy I called you. The guy that you are, that's who I want you to be. Go over there and be happy. Let them see. Let them see some positive energy. Man, I did. Baseball was hard, getting used to their game. They had players and pitchers that were not overpowering. They were finesse pitchers. They threw a lot of fork balls, a lot of off-speed pitches. They had a little shuto, they called it, a shuto. That was a running fastball that came in on your hands. They pitched backwards, so they didn't throw you a lot of fastballs because they knew Americans were used to hitting fastballs. So I had to learn how to adjust. I had to adjust my strike zone. I had to learn how to spread out a little bit, spread my base, and to shorten up my swing and use the whole field. And it was a challenge. My manager was Katsuya Nomura. He's a famous Japanese baseball player. He thought he owned the game. He was pretty confident young guy. Actually, he was not young. Nomura was pretty confident. The 2 months in the Japanese spring season was long. I mean, in America, 1 month is a long spring training. So imagine 2 months. Well, everything was great. Their food was off the charts wonderful. Sushi, are you kidding? I ate all that stuff. It was the greatest cuisine we got to experience as far as the food went. It was the greatest. Now the season starts and everything's changed. I went 0-4 my first game. Oh. And then the next game I went over. They called me into the office. The manager has my interpreter in his office and he's sitting in the corner and he's going and he's barking stuff at me. And I looked at my interpreter and I said, "Hey, Masa, what's the problem? What did he say?" "You're the reason we're losing." Took him 15 minutes to say that? I told my interpreter, "Please tell him that I'm getting used to his game and I'm going to end up being the player that he wants. It's just taking me some time. I'm learning how to get used to it." I had skin fields. They didn't have any grass in the infield. The dirt was this deep. It was amazing just the differences in the game. So I remember walking out of his office and I bowed to him. I bowed to Nomura. I always would. And here's what I would say when I would bow to him. Thank you for the check. Just keep sending those checks. Thank you very much. As I bowed to him. My ego, at that particular time in my career, 10 years in the minors, 5 years in the majors, man, I was happy. He couldn't bother me. Anything they said, I didn't care what they wrote about me because I couldn't read their language or their writing anyway. I didn't care what they said about me. I couldn't understand their language. It was a summer, 9 months of just flat out playing baseball. Showing up at the ballpark. No Japanese media allowed in the locker room. We would get there at 4 o'clock. The Japanese players had been there since 1 working out. And so they knew we weren't used to that style. So we would come into an empty locker room and Jack, I remember, would play Michael Jackson. In 1993, Michael Jackson was hopping. So we were rocking, man. We would turn the tunes all the way up and we're getting ready, getting our uniforms on, and we're just boogieing to Michael Jackson. It was so fun. Game comes on, play the game, go home. Game started at 6 o'clock. Everybody had to be on the train by 10. I rode my bike to the ballpark in Japan. Ring, 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 ring. I had a little bell on my thing, and I had a basket in the front. And so we'd walk our bikes through the crowd after the game was over, and the fans would be yelling, "Hadula!" Yay! And they would chase me down autographs, and I'd walk through there with my bike, and I would get on my bike, and I would outrun them. And they would be going, "Hadula!" I'd go, "Hey, see you tomorrow." It was fresh. We had 1 day off a week, a Monday. And later in the season, when the monsoons come and it starts raining, I remember they would rain the games out. So we were taking batting practice and running on a day where it was raining and no one really wanted to be there. I'm all about morale. I'm all about having fun with my teammates. I told Jack Howell a few weeks earlier about how I ate the June bug for the Cardinals when I was a Cardinal and how everybody laughed and we ended up winning the game. It was for morale. Okay, now we're in Japan. We're working on this off day. We're running pole to poles. That's foul pole to foul pole. And we're resting. Jack Howell walks over and there was an earthworm on the field. There was an earthworm that was on an artificial turf field. So it was like a fish out of water. Jack goes over and he picks up the earthworm and he holds it up and he's looking at my Japanese teammates going, hey, Huddler will eat the worm. How much can you pay him? You pay him and he'll eat this worm. And I'm telling myself, oh my gosh, what's he doing? I'm not mentally prepared to do this. Same way as that June bug. It was a dare. And so Jack Howell's going, okay, how much? He goes, Hud, like 100,000 yen, whatever it was. It ended up being $1,000 American. And I go, what? And I walked over, I opened up my mouth, he dropped the earthworm in there, and I chewed the earthworm up. I chewed him. I was wondering about, I didn't want him down in my stomach or whatever. I chewed him, and then I dropped on the ground, and I started doing push-ups, looking around at my teammates like this, and I wondered what they were going to react. They lost it. They screamed, "Ow!" They couldn't believe it. But here they eat so many different things in Japan, I wasn't sure that they would even care. It ends up, they laugh, and that's what it was all about. Laughing. We get back to the locker room. The Japanese media, I said, is not allowed in the locker room. I came out of the locker room. There's 50 photographers taking my picture. And I'm going, uh-oh, what happened? I'm thinking something happened. What's going on here? And so they're all taking my picture. I'm walking out and I figured it out. Somebody told the Japanese press that I ate an earthworm. So what do? I ham it up. I picked up the toothpick out of my pocket and I started picking my teeth and they roared. The 50 photographers roared. They fell on the ground laughing. So I'm thinking, oh, oishi, oishi. That's good in Japanese. And so the next day, 7 major publications in Tokyo. I was on the papers. My teammates showed me the newspapers and they laughed. The headline said, "Crazy American eats worm." Perfect! That's right. I wanted my opponents to know I was a little bit off. Just flat out fun baseball. We ended up grinding. I ended up being the player that they wanted. Getting used to playing baseball in Japan took some time. You're supposed to be a hired gun. And so I said, hey, look, as long as I'm in your lineup, I'm happy. I don't care. I'm going to go out and play baseball. I let nothing bother me mentally. I showed up every day and was happy to play baseball. And I remember taking some swings every day. We swung, they do a lot of exercising. And I was taking my swings and the hitting coach would tell me, the hitting coach would go, "Genki, you Genki." And I thought he meant you played for the Yankees. And I said, hi, yes, I played for the Yankees. And then I asked my interpreter, hey Masa, this guy, every day he throws me balls, he says Genki to me. And I'm wondering, what does that mean? And my interpreter said, happy. You're happy. He could see it. Happy spirit. And so I said, how do I address him when he says Genki to me tomorrow. He says, you say Genki desu, domo. Genki desu. That means, yes, I am happy, thank you. So when he dropped that Genki, I said, Genki desu, domo, and he about fell out, man. He loved it. But there it was. There's the spirit, having fun, playing baseball, enjoying the warm-ups, enjoying the ich-ni, san-chi, 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of exercises there, a lot of calisthenics. I became the player they were looking for. But I can tell you, one of the other things about getting adjusted to the Japanese game was the band they had out in left field. They had a band. It was like a pep band at a college football game. They would play a song for every player. And I remember it was getting on my nerves. The first week of the season, I'm like, oh my gosh. And what it was like a broken record. Once they would get done with the lineup, they would start it over again. And every guy that came to the plate had his own song. And I could have a 10-pitch at bat and foul off a lot of pitches, and they would just start singing my song over again. So I remember playing second base. Jack played third. I yell across the diamond, hey Jack, turn the music off. Uncle, it's killing me. And he'd look at me and just shake his head. He'd shake his head. Middle of the game, he'd shake his head and he would just put his hands and he would go, Hud, you're not going to change their game, man. That's just the way it is. Get used to it. So I did, and I embraced it. And I loved my song. Matter of fact, I know my song by heart. I anchored second base down. I loved turning two for them. I was there to play. I was there to be one of their guys and help them win a title. Sure enough, we won our league. And whenever you win your league, there's 2 leagues there, like the American and National, then you go right into the World Series. There was no round of playoffs or anything. So we went to the World Series, we played against the Cebu Lions. And I remember, after that was over, the people on the streets of Tokyo were yelling, Banzai, how are you doing, Hadula? And I looked at Jack and go, wow, Jack, the whole country of Japan is bowing at our feet right now, and we're going home? No way, we can't go home now, Jack. And we looked at each other again and went, nah, we're going home. Jennifer and I left some of our bags there. First time in 25 years the team had won a Japan series. I thought for sure my chances of coming back were really good. Got home, got my pink slip. What? It's the only time I ever cried when I got fired in baseball. God had a different plan. I said, Hud, you got your 450 at-bats, you got 500 ABs there. Hey, you improved your game. Now let's go finish your goal of getting 10 years in the majors. The game of baseball in Japan on the field was fun. And it was not as violent. They didn't slide into second base and knock people down. It was more of a gentleman's game. And the players there were taught self-control from birth. And that's exactly what I needed. Being a utility player for 5 years in the majors, I was a wild man. I got to meet some great people. Sadahara O, their home run king, was a pleasure. What a gentleman he was. I got to meet so many different sumo wrestling. I went to a sumo wrestling event. It was a fantastic opportunity. Now they were worried about me getting crushed by a sumo wrestler if I sat in the front row, so they set me 3 rows back. The people were so wonderful. The fans in Japan were great. They loved baseball. That's all they did was cheer. There was no booing in baseball there. And playing on a Japan championship team, I never experienced anything like that in the majors. I want to say thanks to my Japanese baseball fans and what you provided for me there. Joy, and how much you cheered for me. You made me feel like a star. I had a lot of fun with Japanese teammates. They were some of the greatest players in the world. I believe that Fruta could have been a catcher in the major leagues. Okay, Ikeyama, good shortstop and a real good teammate, had a good home run bat. He could hit for power. And then Ida-san in center field was really good. Hirosawa at first base was great. But I love Mr. Nomura. Playing for Mr. Nomura was like playing for Yogi Berra in the States, Billy Martin, Earl Weaver, Joe Torre. I'm so thankful I got to play with Katsuya Nomura. Mr. Nomura was a legend in Japan and a really good teacher of baseball. He helped me come back to America and play 5 more years in the American and National Leagues. I really appreciate him. I appreciate the Japanese. Ganbatte kudasai.